Ladies and gentlemen, there is no formality when it comes to this particular session. This is called a Spark Talk. We got two sessions every week. The first one is called Ignition. And right now we are moving on with Ignition 2.0. We already came with Ignition 2.1. Each time we have around about 27 guests, those who come and take part in Ignition. Then we go back to them and ask them to share their stories. And especially we look for stories of pain, and from pain, how they got into a level where they became leader. So every time 27 comes in, we collect, we collage their stories, then we come up with a book. And that's how we came up with the book last year and became a best-selling book. And it was Les Brown's daughter, Serena Brown, who wrote the foreword for us. So this time again, we are going to come up every 2 weeks. I come up with a book right now. It's become like a child's play for me. So this is the second one. So after the Ignition, the same week, we bring the same guest, same leader back again to have an interaction with the community members. Now, there is no formality in this particular program. It's all, you are absolutely free to ask questions to our guest. Who is our guest? I'll introduce that. But before that, let me tell you, feel free, because this is a place, this is a very safe place where you can ask questions and learn. We don't do any business here. There is no sales here, no selling here, not even a 0.000%. No sales, okay? So don't worry about all those things. The whole intention of each and every guest, those who come here, the only intention, they have got a very clear purpose, is to give, give, and give. That's the whole purpose they have, and that's the whole purpose that we have here. Now, whatever you learn from these great leaders, it's not for you. Always remember, it's not for you. It is for you to give. You to give free. The more you teach, the more you learn. How many of you agree that? Just go to the chat and say, I agree, IG, just type IG. If you agree to that, the more you learn, the more you teach, the more you learn. Each time you attend a program, you discover who you are. And our guest today is going to speak all about discovery. So ladies and gentlemen, without any ado, the person who is seeing, that you are seeing right now, I like to call him as a family person, a family man, a leader, a superstar, a rock star on the stage, in front of the camera. He has changed the lives of people around. He has been connected with international brands. He's an entrepreneur with more than 10 to 15 companies. At last, he had to start one by one, and he started coming down to number 9. Now I think it's number 9. So this is the best place to learn, and this is the best person to learn. Ladies and gentlemen, all the way from the United States, Dr. Obom Bowen.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I am absolutely excited, and I feel blessed to be here to share with each and every one of you. I love the part that you said that I'm a superstar, because, you know, my wife tells me all the time that I'm her husband, but now I get to say I'm her superstar husband. So
wow,
I got promoted from just being here today. Thank you so much for having me here, Farookh.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Thank you. And Dr. Obom, the guests, there are a lot of new faces in this group. Many of them are from different countries. We have got from Europe, from the US, from Africa, from Asia, from Far East, and so forth. So you have a crowd, you have got a mixture from different places, different locations around the world. There are Toastmasters here. Toastmaster champions are here, and there are also from JMT or John Maxwell and Les Brown as well. There are a lot of champions from those areas as well, just to give you a clue.
Wonderful.
Yes, and different age group as well.
This is the A team today, Dan.
Exactly.
I love it. Well, I'm happy to serve. However you want us to direct and set the tone here, just let me know. I'm here to serve in this time, and let's make it happen.
Sure, absolutely. You got 15 minutes to talk about yourself, and then we'll take questions.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you got 15 minutes.
15 minutes.
Yes, you can go whenever you feel. If you feel 10 is okay, that's up to you. And once you complete, then it's all about question and answer. It's full of Q&As.
Yeah. So, you know what, when you said 15 minutes, all I need is 3 seconds. As you said, I'm a superstar, done.
Same speech.
No, but, you know, ladies and gentlemen, I'm absolutely excited to share a little bit about, you know, my story, myself. because also often we never get a chance to talk about ourselves, express, who we are, and share our beautifulness with the world. And, for me, my background, humble backgrounds, I was born in Guyana, South America. So I'm an immigrant to the United States. I wasn't born here. My family immigrated, well, now over 30 years ago. And I was born child number 13 in my family. So I'm the 12th son. So there's 12 boys and one girl. I have only one biological sister. And I was born number 12. So I joke a lot with my brothers because, if you have siblings, you always mess with each other. You play jokes with each other. And my de facto answer to all of them over the years have been, Mom and Dad has been working tirelessly to make the perfect child. After 12 attempts, they perfected it, right? So I've always had a great self-esteem growing up, which, turns into, you have a good self-esteem, which is the estimation of oneself. That was the most important thing to help me with my ability to grow. I eventually, when I came to the United States at a very young age, at 17 years old, I enlisted in the United States Marine Corps. So for those of you who are familiar with the Marines, it's one of the toughest branches in service in the world, bar none. So I started out, I wanted to be the best. And I did have a very successful career as a Marine. I got married to my first wife when I was 19 years old. That lasted for 14 years. We ended up having a really terrible divorce. I had gotten injured in Iraq and came back, and my first wife was pregnant with someone else's kid. So we kind of ended things really bad. And I ended up homeless, living in my car. I was homeless for 5 years, and I got introduced to personal development by the way of network marketing. So within those 5 years, I worked, and about a year later is when I actually met my current wife, and that was 17 years ago. So the time has flown. She was my friend. I met her. We were friends. Well, to say the least, she didn't like me in the beginning, but eventually I grew on her. Right? So it took us 7 years for that process to happen. We eventually got married. That was almost over a decade ago now. And we have a beautiful 2-year-old daughter. And from my first marriage, I have 2 other daughters who are now 18 and 20 years old. So I have 3 girls and 1 son. My son is who my wife and I adopted. And so that's our family. But, in the transition from my first business opportunity in network marketing, my goal was to always pursue my passion. I do have a doctorate in medicine. I do have 2 master's degrees. One obviously is in business, if I didn't say that before. And I have 2 PhDs, one in human behavior and the other in psychology. And I do also have a doctorate in divinity. Needless to say, I love to learn as much as I love to teach. And there's no such thing as knowing enough. My mentor told me once, he says, Obom, the only thing I know is I know enough to be dangerous. I don't know everything. And if you're a student of life, you will never know enough. So I began to focus more on generating wealth because of my situation. I was homeless. I lived in my car. And that took about 5 years to get it. I wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed, or as they say, the smartest. But if you continue to pour into a cup, the cup will fill up. I started studying enough on business, real estate, investing, and I read those types of books for years and years. After a while, things started to make sense. So as I was building my business in the network marketing space, I started investing in myself to say, you know what, I'm going to take 80% of what I earn here to launch my first company, which is what I did. And my very first company was a consulting company called 7 Consulting. And I started consulting small businesses. And eventually that led me to my first Fortune 50 client, which was Walmart stores. So Walmart brought me on board and I did very well for them. And I remember the first time I had my first 7-figure retainer was with Walmart. That changed everything for me, put me into what they call a whole new zip code. So my life changed, my income changed, my zip code changed. So I moved from where I was living to a better neighborhood, obviously. And, that gave me time to slow down, take a lot of the funds that I have and start investing in more of my passions. So eventually I launched the second company, the third company, and the fourth. At one point, we had over 30 different companies. We sold 20 something of them. As Farookh was saying earlier, now we're down to basically 8. My wife said I can only have 7. So we can't tell her about the 9th I'm looking at. So no secrets, Farookh. Because, you know, when you're running companies, your attention is divided. Your focus is also divided. So the good thing about what I am best at is 2 specific things. And I stay in my lane about that. So my gift, number 1, is taking the complicated and making it simple. So I systematize everything I do, every business that I'm in. So that's my gift. The second thing I'm really good at is communicating and helping individuals understand their worth and value. So I've also simplified that process through my gift. And now I can do it easier, faster, and help someone else succeed where it took me years to do. I can now do very simply. So that's been my, my story, my passion, who I am. And last but not least, in my relationship with my family, my kids, it's been important for me over the last few years to make sure that they know 2 things. Number 1, what they were put on this earth to do. And number 2, how they can go about making it happen, because those are the 2 most defining days in our lives. Yeah. They said, well, the 2 is the day you were born, the day you find out why. Well, the 3rd for me is this, the bonus, what you do with what you find out you were put on this earth to do. And for me, it's leaving a legacy. And that's, right now, that's what I'm focused on is my legacy work. How am I going to leave? And I truly, for my own selfish desires, I desire to have my kids have a statue made of me one day that's saying that Grandpa Obom did phenomenal for the family. It must be a huge family statue at the head of the gate. So when everyone walks in, the first and last person they see is me, right? So that's my own selfish piece. But in order to build that, everyone else around me must see the vision, because without vision, we all perish. So that's my story, Farookh. And as Les will say, I'm sticking to it.
Thank you very much for sharing. One question that I would like to start up with is because when we had the interview last week, there was one thing that I learned from you, whereby you divide each and every day into 4 segments or 4 quadrants. And that was something, a new lesson for me and for the listeners as well. Would you like to share that particular part of your life where you divide your day into 4 quadrants? Yeah, absolutely. So I think instead of just jumping into it too, is to share a little bit of, the backstory with that, which was, it's important for some folks to know. So, so many people around the world are always looking to be able to, manage time better, right? Taking all these time management courses, doing all these things. And the biggest lie that we've ever had, or the greatest fallacy, is the fallacy of time management, because you cannot manage time, right? It doesn't matter if I look on my phone right now, it says 11:14 a.m. where I'm at. And I can stand here and look and try to manage that time. I can even go up to a physical clock with the hands that tick and move around and stop the time. It doesn't mean that time stops and I can manage it and hold, I need an extra 3 hours. So I'm going to manage the time here and hold these 3 hours there. No, if it was 4 o'clock when you're finished, it's 7 o'clock. And you can't, the clock you may put back on to say 3, 4, 5, but it's not going to happen. What we can do is we can manage ourselves. So when I found this out, segue, by the way, because I knew that time management was such an issue with the world and everyone believes in time management. One of the companies my wife and I did as a training company, we used to do time management courses. And the very first lesson we taught everyone once they walk in the door and sat down, we says, listen, there is no such thing as time management. And, everyone would look and some of them would laugh. And I said, well, if I had launched a course that says self-management, no one would sign up because no one wants to take responsibility. So that's really the history behind how this whole thing started, was being able to take responsibility for my day. Every one of us, when we wake up, both the beggar and the billionaire have the same 24 hours every single day to deal with. Over 80,000 or 80 million seconds a day, 84 million of them. So how you manage those minute by minute, second by second is important.
how you manage yourself around the time is very important. So I started looking at, okay, what is the best time of the day for me to be effective when I work? Because that's our most concern. And being a psychologist, I look at what is the number one thing that we actually need to function. And the most important thing is sleep. And in my first half of life, business life, I had the same belief of most entrepreneurs who says this: oh, I'll sleep when I'm dead, or sleep is for the weak, or you don't need that much sleep. Time out. No, what happens is the brain functions very, very well when it's on sleep. So the way that we progress through life is through what's called executive function. That's the most important part of the brain. So if your executive function is to provide for your family through your work or your business, then that will be your primary focus. Now, if you start to lose sleep, then you start to lose all other functions, and only the executive function is toned in. With the executive function being toned in, you are focused on business, you'll be successful, you do all those things. But the first thing that dwindles is the emotional connection. So the emotional connection means this: your personal relationships with your spouse or your family will start to suffer when you start to lose sleep. You'll start to become more irritable. You'll actually consume less water, which will give you the ability to start gaining more weight. So you will not sleep, not have good relationships. Business might be great, but you may start gaining weight. So the first quadrant that I put together is called sleep, because sleep is the most powerful part of you. So when those quadrants are there, the first is sleep. Sleep for me, and this can vary from everyone else, but sleep for me is from midnight, so 12 a.m. in the morning, midnight to 8 a.m. in the morning. So I can get 8 hours of sleep. Now, some folks will say you don't need 8 hours. You only need 6 hours or 3. It doesn't matter. If you really want to know, do a sleep test for yourself. It'll take 3 days to where you can actually, on a Friday, it's best to do over the weekend. On a Friday, you go and you turn off all the lights in your room, lock all the windows and blinds. You go to sleep Friday night, and you just wake up naturally. No alarm, not wake up naturally Saturday morning. And you record what time you went to sleep and what time you woke up. And you do that same thing again Saturday, same thing again Sunday. Then you take the average of the 3 days that you slept, and that is your circadian rhythm, your actual natural sleep. And so for me, it's about 7.5. That's why I put 8 hours, because you never know. I always have my honeydew conversations at night, and then I fall asleep. Or sometimes, you get up and you go to the bathroom. So, but anyways, the most important part is sleep. So once sleep is out of the way, that's quadrant 1. That's the most powerful one. Once you wake up in the morning, the brain is rested, you're now reset, you can start your day. So my day in the beginning, so it's 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. is what I call morning routine. And typically in my morning routine, except for 18 members like Farookh, no one gets in this space. This is the space. In fact, my wife was just here. Since I was up early to do this, I recorded a video, did a presentation. So today's one of those off days. And Farookh is the only person in probably the last year that's gotten me out balanced with my schedule, probably because I love him. That is because, it was asked beforehand, and when I have the chance to give back, then I will. Now, if this becomes a recurring thing, it's not going to happen on one off day or 2 off days. That's okay. But when you get into your schedule and your routine, you do need some rigidity. So number 1 is sleep. Number 2 is morning routine. In the morning routine, I have the time to do stuff like this if I wanted to. But in that morning routine is where I would sit down and I would serve my wife. I would make coffee. We would talk. We would work out, get things together, get the day start plan or what is going to happen for the day. Now, at 12 p.m., so 12 to 7 p.m. is called work. In those 7 hours is when I actually go to work. So at 12:15 today, I start. I have an extra 15 minutes. I have to give myself a break after this. So at 12:15 today, I go to work. Since the world has changed, I'm on Zooms back to back to back to back. And then I have an hour in between each of them, or a few minutes in between each hour to take a break, reset, get my brain settled in. But in that time of these 7 hours I work, I get more done than some people get done all week or all month long. Most people think about working, so they're mentally consumed with what they're supposed to do, and they don't actually do it. Now, I actually learned this skill while I was building my first network marketing business, because I thought about doing the business all day long, thought about talking to people, but I never really actually did anything. And then I'm mentally exhausted at the end of the day, like most people do. If they even have a job, they stand around and talk to each other at the water fountain, or they gossip about everyone else, and they're not actually working. But they're very upset when they don't receive 8 hours of pay a day, and they only really put in 2 hours. So the first quadrant is sleep, the second is morning routine, and the third is work. The third is work. So once that is done, comes 7:01 p.m. So 7 to midnight is called family time. That's my time where I spend and I give back to my daughter, my wife. We relax. You know, so many, and I used to believe this as well. I used to say this, that you shouldn't watch TV and have a lot of recreation and too much playtime, because you're never going to get enough done. I tell you this, I have more playtime. I watch more television. Here's the reason why. I watch specific shows. Well, personally, I don't watch commercials. I don't really like them. I don't want to be sold on something else that's going to bias my opinion on something unless I do the research for it. That's just doctoral. But I watch television shows, or the favorite show I'm watching right now is a show called Power, right? And it's all about the hustle and business. But here's what's interesting about that. When your mind have the ability to unwind from your day, it's very important that you intentionally do something to bring recreation to your mind, so then you're not too focused on business all the time. You know, my mom always used to say this, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. Well, the same thing, all play and no work makes Jack a dull boy. So you have to have a balance in there. But also, my daughter is now 2 years old. If I don't have the time to spend with her as much as I want to, it takes away from the relationship I want with her when she becomes an older child or an adult. And whatever we do in the presence of our children, they actually stop learning from us at age 4, and they observe everything we do. So if I want to be able to rear a very well-rounded child, I need to be able to demonstrate that to her. Fortunately, I've been able to do it to her sisters and her brother. Now I get to do it with her even more, because in my younger years, I didn't have the finances to be able to afford to really create my schedule the way it is now. But I tell you what, the moment I implemented that, everything changed. I was able to earn more income in less time. And now my focus is on 2 forms of income, residual and passive. Direct income, we don't get along so well, because that means that if I'm going to work to earn $1 million, when I stop, that $1 million stop. Today, no, the millions come in without me doing much of anything else. So I've learned how to leverage, and that's what the quadrated system gave me. So when you're able to then control your time, you know, a lot of my friends who actually know me, they know the times when to contact and communicate with me. So as I said, this is one of the main reasons why, you know, Farookh was able to help to actually get me to do this, because he communicated ahead of time. So as right now, with this phone is going on, my phone is on silent. I don't know what it sounds like because it's been years, and I'm never going to turn the volume on. The only thing that has a volume in my phone is an alarm. So whenever I set an alarm, there are days where I want, you know, be able to get up a lot earlier, because I do have clients in different parts of the world, in China and so on and so forth. So I may have to get up earlier, but that means I may go to bed earlier, because my sleep is the most important. So I hope that was helpful, Farookh. What I'm going to do, absolutely, is step aside for a second, because I just realized my computer battery's running down. So I'm going to plug it in real quick.
Sure. I want everybody to go to the chat and say, how did you find it? Come on, go and give your comment in one word. Just go to the chat and say, how did you find this? Was it valuable? Did you learn something? I want everyone to go comment in one single word in the chat box. Profound. Yes, go ahead. Go ahead. Wonderful. Great. Go ahead. Yes, inspiring. Thank you very much. Excellent. Now, one question, thank you very much. One question that I would like to ask before I give it to the audience is that, and especially I'm talking from the audience perspective, as a professional speaker, I don't like to use the word public speaking. I would like to use the word professional speaking. You are a professional speaker. There are a lot of people, number one, they love to go on stage. There are a lot of people, those who have gone on stage, but they don't know how to make money out of it. Now, from your experience, it's for quite sure that when I used to go on stage, I used to not get paid for it, but I love to go for it. And today I get what I want to. I can ask whatever I want to. Today, when I'm sitting and talking with you, you spoke about residual income. Right now, if I switch on my phone, I can see that within this 30 minutes, how many people might have joined in my organization and paying me. It rolls down, because that's all the beauty about passive income or residual income. So the question is about how to become a professional speaker. Okay, that's a good
I love it. Well, there's so many different avenues, but the first thing, you want to be able to understand is, becoming a professional speaker means you truly, if you don't have the desire to really serve, then becoming a professional speaker might not be for you. And here's why I say this. Becoming a professional speaker, most of us, we already go to the end result, the end in mind. And that's great because it means that you have vision, right? It takes vision to see before the masses see. But when you say professional speaker, what do you mean? A professional speaker is someone who receives income when they speak, they share, and they teach. So all of us, if we have the goal to be a professional speaker, we're already there. But in order to get there, we have to be willing to, as Malcolm Gladwell put into his book in the second chapter in Outliers, talking about putting in your 10,000 hours. So to be a professional means that you are, number one, proactive in what you're doing, and you're so good at it that people will pay you for what you have of value. But in order to gain that value, you have to have an audience. And to do that, to become a master at it, sorry, my phone just hurt because I touched it just now. Google is coming on, ask me what I don't want anything Google. Anyways, you have to be able to be professional, and professionalism takes time. It takes 10,000 hours to be a professional at anything you do. If it's speaking, it's training, when we do communicate, and you'll see here, I say certain things and I'm just a talking head, and sometimes I'm expressive. That's because that's how I naturally am. But I also understand the three most important things about communication, that we communicate then in three dimensions: words, pictures, and emotions. So what we say influence what we see, and what we see influence how we feel. But when you break that down, the words are only 7% of the equation. Pictures are 40%. Even if you add the words and the pictures together, for example, if I say something that mentions the word cheeseburger, you will picture a cheeseburger in your mind. Or I say Maserati or Bugatti, depending on, you got excitement. So if I said Maserati, Bugatti, those of you who love fancy cars, I used one word to trigger both, using the word, triggering a picture, and an emotion. You felt excited. So the most important thing about speaking and communicating effectively is not necessarily what you say, it's how you make people feel. So over the 10,000 hours, when you're speaking, when you're sharing, you have to then learn how to elicit the right emotion in your audience. If you're speaking to sell from stage, you want to be able to elicit the right emotions for them to buy, because every sale is emotional. And then we justify it with logic. So we go to the emotion, which is 53%. That holds a larger part. And people will never fully remember what you do for them, but they will always remember how you make them feel. Exactly. So, becoming a professional speaker is highly important. But the first and most important thing to become a professional speaker is you have to be a person who loves to serve. Because through service leads to greatness, and that greatness comes from your 10,000 hours of becoming great, becoming a professional. Now, when you get to that level where you can dictate what it costs, I have folks who reach out to me now and they say, "Oh, we heard your fee is $50,000 or $70,000." And I'm like, "Yeah, that was 4 years ago, not today." Right? So it's not going to happen. You heard the past. today's the present, and the future, it will always change. So it took me probably 7 years to become a really good speaker. Now, when I built my first network marketing company, I had 5 years of training there. Didn't realize it because I was doing presentations every single day. And as I became more of a leader with that company, I was teaching and training and do what I call an intertrainment. So I was training from stage, and I didn't really, those volunteer hours, it's what I call them. It's your volunteer hours, the 10,000 hours of greatness. You have to put them in. Whether it's in presentations, it's training. I used to go to old folks' homes and talk to them. So becoming a professional, you have to be able to put in professional hours. Last point on that one is this. A professional boxer or fighter is recognized in the ring. Like, yeah, they're the champion, they won. But the rehearsal, 4 a.m. in the morning, the getting up, the runs, the workouts, all those things that no one sees, that they put in for hundreds and thousands of hours and years. And every professional fighter spends at least 6 months training for another fight. So if you're a professional boxer, the fastest you can fight is twice a year. Like, that is the professional standard. You have to basically prepare 6 months for the fight because of all the trauma and head hits that you can get. Now, those who are fighting earlier than that, they sign waivers and do all kinds of other stuff, meaning this. Once the 10,000 hours is done, though, the difference between being a professional speaker and a professional fighter is once your 10,000 hours are finished, you can speak every day. And that's the big difference. So you can speak every day or every weekend, but a professional fighter has to wait every 6 months. So we got an advantage over them. So Farookh, I'm going to pass it back to you, my friend.
Thank you very much. I want everyone to go and type amazing. And you really reminded me about the Tyson's fight, which was actually planned for the 12th. Now they have just postponed that to the next month.
Right.
He's exactly my age, 54, and he's really tough right now. Yeah, age is just a number. Age is just a number.
Age is just a number.
Okay.
No, Tyson.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Shamir is the one to coordinate everything over here. So anyone who would like to open a question, please go ahead, unmute yourself, introduce yourself, and feel free to ask questions. Anyone.
They can unmute themselves and speak.
Yes, please. Anyone who wants to speak, ask a question. This is a safe zone. Just unmute yourself and ask the question.
Feel like I'm in the firing squad.
Hi, Obom. My name is Safir Aziz. I am in Cochin, Kerala right now.
Okay. Hi, Safir.
If I remember correctly, you mentioned about the struggles in your life. And then you also mentioned that the next stage for you was to work on your passion. And now your focus is on leaving a legacy. Now, we keep hearing from a lot of management gurus that you need to find your passion first and then, work on that so that your life becomes enjoyable, your work becomes enjoyable. So just wanted to ask you, what comes first? Do you identify your passion and get to it and get to work on it, or you struggle, you lay some foundation so that you have the opportunity to work on your passion?
Wow, Safir, that's a very powerful question. And I'll say this. So I believed a lot of those same professional and gurus too, for a while, when they said that you have to focus and find your passion first. So here I was for years trying to figure out what's my passion, and I was doing so many different things because I thought it was my passion, but it really wasn't. I didn't really discover my passion till about 16 years ago. Everything before then, I was still working towards that passion. Your passion also can change, which is what no one really shares with you. So, for example, when I wasn't married to my current wife, you can guess what my passion was: finding a life partner that will work for me. And I didn't realize that was my passion. When I did, I actually created an affirmation that details what I was looking for in a woman and what I was willing to do to attract that woman, because the universe is very reciprocitous. What you give, you receive. So in listing what I wanted, I had to be willing to become that person to attract her. That took 18 months for her to show up. And that showed up, and that it was great. I found someone. What do I do now? Right? So, because I was married for 14 years, and the truth was, it didn't matter how that ended. There is a hole, there's a void inside of you, and I could have either chose to be bitter or better. So I chose to be better, and I realized I needed a partner, a companion. And we got into business together. And then I thought my passion was really my first company because of something that I did. That wasn't my passion, though. My passion really was serving. I just thought that using, whatever this is, was my passion. No. So that first business I launched, the first company I launched, a consulting company, in about 4 years after that, I began to earn multiple seven figures, so millions of dollars. And I was like, woo. So I even got distracted by the income because I thought that was my passion, but it wasn't really my passion. My passion is truly serving and giving back. But I have to be in a place financially where I don't need to depend on whatever that passion is for income. Right? This is what I love to do. I love to teach, educate, and inspire people to move and get to the next level. And I share my truth with them. So your passions change. And I've had several passions because we can get passionate about anything. And finding that one thing that I think most of the gurus get confused about is finding your gift. So my gift is taking the complicated and making it simple. That took me years to find because I was doing it in everything I did and didn't realize that that was my gift. Until one day I'm actually in a discussion panel and everyone, I have all these questions. It was like 5 hours. We had a power session, 5 hours. It was in a mastermind weekend. And everyone was coming with issues, and I was boom, solving these problems, issues, and I was helping so many people. And I was so excited because I'm like, it doesn't matter what you say. I was on fire, I was in flow. And then in the midst, someone asked me a question and it just rolled off. They said, well, so what has this been for you? And I said, listen, the only thing you can understand is this. Throughout this whole process, all my life, I've been taking everybody's complicated stuff and making it simple. And it hit me. My gift was taking the complicated and making it simple. So I oh man, have you ever spoken and then as you're speaking, you had an idea and you're like, oh, that is important. So I'm like, I need to write this down before I forget it. So I picked up my phone and I sent a text message to myself, turning the complicated, making it simple. Great. And then when I got home, after I rested, because I was gone for the weekend, I was mentally exhausted. I sat down for hours and really looked at what in my life have I taken that was complicated and made it simple. And I also realized in my own struggle, when I was going through, the thing that helped me was creating a system, was also creating my sleep routine, was also creating my work routine, was creating my quadrated system. I simplified that process that used to frustrate me. So when I simplified that, it made my days better. And I can focus in 4 major areas. Here's why. Because as a psychologist, I understand that we're habitual as people. We perform to the level of our beliefs as well. So whatever our beliefs are of something, it doesn't matter what it is, good or bad, right or wrong, you always perform to what you believe. So then I started focusing on, okay, I needed to then change my beliefs. So coming back to that portion of your question of, which comes first is the drive, the passion to pursue something, not necessarily whatever that passion is, because understanding that your passion will always change. As you develop, in fact, your passion will naturally change every 7 to 10 years, because if you're focused on growing, your growth, your maturity will happen every 7 to 10 years. So every decade, you'll have a new passion. And for some people, if they don't really understand that, they want to hold on to things that happened in the past. And here's a perfect example of not holding on to the past for too long. If you were selling CDs, you're passionate about it, no one would buy CDs today. Every 5 years, a decade, something dramatically happens. COVID happened at the beginning of this year. Typically, I'm sure Farookh would have probably had this audience live to have someone come to speak. But now the world has evolved and we are digital. So the way we do business moving forward falls into then whenever the mind expands, it can never retract. Even when we have the ability to go out and connect with each other again, we will still connect more on Zoom and other new platforms, which will arise very soon because the needs of the world always create something there. So for me, it was easier than Safir to understand this. What I'm passionate about now, I will devote my time and effort into. But your passion is really something that you can devote every waking hour to in that moment, or for a moment of time or a period of time that you would do without remuneration. You would do without receiving money. Now, if you can do it and receive pay, then that's a beautiful thing. But just know that that passion changes ever so often. And for me, when I was really struggling and couldn't figure out what I was good at, I would jump into like almost every opportunity that I found because I didn't really know what I was passionate about. And my true passion is really serving and giving back. And if I can serve and give back and get paid, that's a whole different ballgame.
Thanks, Obom, for being honest, practical, and pragmatic. Thanks.
Thank you. Absolutely, you're welcome.
That was amazing. That was amazing. There's some. I want all of you to go and comment now. Here, what I could notice that Dr. Obom, you were using some powerful words. One of the most powerful words that I found. I'm very good at catching words. You know that very well.
I learned the other day.
And one of the powerful words that you used is about becoming. That is so powerful because if you want to become the person, if you want to attract people, you have to become the person first. And that is very powerful that he used. The second one he used, the powerful word was growth. He didn't say about goal. He said growth. Because goal is somewhere you go and stop, you get stagnated, but growth is something that you go beyond that. So you always have to focus on the growth, whether you're growing a little or little, but you have to grow and you have to also grow beyond your goal. The third thing he spoke about is about the passion. Your passion keeps on changing based on your age. Now, if I take myself as an example, I found that at the age of 16, when I became a professional at the age of 16, I started teaching at that time. I used to teach martial arts at that time. Then after some stage, I went to a different zone, which was called IATA or Airline Training Programs. There again, I was teaching. Then I moved on to the aviation industry. There again, I was teaching. Then I came to the leadership. Again, I was teaching. Always understand my passion was changing. Today, if you ask me whether you can go and teach karate, my answer is no, because I have already closed the chapter. Because it's no more my passion. Can I go and teach IATA? My answer is no. When I get offers from the aviation industry asking me, can I go and teach the captains and the pilots and so forth? I say, no, that's over because now my passion is different. But there's one thing that you all have to focus on. That's exactly what the doctor said here. Your purpose should be crystal clear. Your passion changes, but your purpose must be crystal clear. You need to know why are you here. He spoke about 2 days, the day you were born and the day when you know why you were born. Thank you very much. Very powerful, very powerful. Next, please.
Thank you, my pleasure. I see the CCs rolling in now and I get it. I get it.
It's not your credit card.
It's not my credit card, but I was in there. And Safir, another piece to your question, you mentioned about legacy, where I'm at now. Legacy and passion, if you get those two matched up, it's very important. So, and sometimes what I'm learning now also is as a parent, right? We have these desires and intentions of what we want for our kids. And sometimes that overshadow what our children want for themselves. Mm. And so now my wife and I are focused on, we're creating the environments of all the things we want to do, but I am not so laser focused on. So for example, I've brainwashed all my kids. Let's just be open and honest. We do, whether we do it consciously or unconsciously. So we intentionally focused based on their personalities when they were younger. Who would be best for whatever. So my oldest daughter, she's more to be a listener and more of someone who is deep in thought. So I said, great, we'll just brainwash her to be a psychologist. And she actually is going to Pennsylvania State, which is the best school for psychology in the US right now. And my youngest daughter, she's going to college for business, because from day one, this child was very, very fond of money. She was always, here's what she did. We would give them an allowance. My oldest daughter, she would spend some of it to do whatever. My youngest one would save it. And she would pretty much, in a sense, better words, swindle her sister out of her money. Mm-hmm. So we knew that this child already had a grasp on money. So she's going to business school, obviously for finances. Our goal is to groom both of them to take over our core businesses, to be my oldest daughter to be the core trainer, and our younger daughter, the middle daughter, to be our CFO, and the baby eventually in the next 10 years to start grooming her to be the one who's going to take over the youth department of that. Now that's my goal for my children. And as a parent, sometimes we get lost in what we want them to do and feel that we've done so much for them that we miss that whatever it is that they want, they may not want what we want for them. So I'm good with either way, but I'm preparing a path for them to be able to take over. If not, this is why I also have CEOs. And my wife and I are already very comfortable with saying if they never do anything, great, we'll give them a stipend, try to find a way with them in the businesses. If they don't, do whatever they want to do. But that became very relevant to me because my dad, which is hilarious, by the way, my mom wanted me to be a lawyer. My dad wanted me to be a doctor. So I eventually had a scholarship to go to Princeton to study law. I did study law. I didn't take the bar. I did become a doctor, and those were my parents' wishes. It was never something that I fully got passionate about. Now, as a businessman, as an entrepreneur, I learned how to weave all those things that I've studied to put into what I'm good at. But so often we direct our kids to do what we want them to do. My legacy will live on with or without my kids. I would prefer for them to be in it and be part of it to continue my legacy, but the legacy will carry on. Even if the kids aren't there, we have two doctrines which we set up. One where the legacy carries on by bipartisan individuals who will run our organizations after we're gone, and the other where my kids are in charge. And I'm never just going to put them in charge. I've been grooming them all their lives. They've been already qualified to do so. But here's the important part. If they're not up to the challenge, there's someone that's going to left seat, right seat with them in a sense, sit there and help them through that process. So I wanted to share that because legacy is important, but we can't be so tunnel vision and focused to where we, in a sense, scotoma out everything else.
Wow, that was absolutely great. And if anybody has gone through John Maxwell's 21 irrefutable laws of leadership, there are 21 laws, and the last law, the 21st law, is a law of legacy. Very powerful, very powerful. Thank you very much for sharing that. Next question, please. Next question, please.
Can I ask?
Yeah, sure. Please introduce yourself.
Dr. Obom, thank you for your time. Just curious about your time after coming back from the Marine Corps. Before you started off your business works, how did you manage that tough times? Was it at the job or were you just poor? How was it managed?
Well, I have to give you a little bit of history on that. So while in the Marine Corps, I've always been an entrepreneur all my life. Coming from a third world country, we survived. I was the kid who actually found a penny on the beach, shined it up, poke a hole in it, pound it out, put a string in it, and sold it for $5. So a penny turned into $5 to me. That was me. I was always an entrepreneur, right? So even while I was in the military, I had businesses. And I had, there was a company called SMC, Small Business Corporation in the United States, like the late 80s, early 90s. And I started working with that company and then ended up having my own warehouse with over 3,000 different products, right? So I was always thinking and generating income. But in my transition from the military, I got injured my last enlistment. And I actually got blown up 3 separate times in Iraq. I was paralyzed from the waist down, was in a wheelchair for 9 months, couldn't walk or talk. And that was around the time I came back home and my first wife was pregnant with someone else's child. So, the strain on our relationship then started, which ended in a divorce. At the same time, I was going through the suffering and recovering from PTSD, suicide ideation, planning on taking my own life. I had the depression. So when the divorce happened, I was like a ship without a rudder. There was a lot of confusion. There was a lot of anger, resentment, and blame also, right? So with that, that's basically the recipe for a downward spiral to where you're never going to amount to anything. So I wasn't seeing clearly, and I was homeless, living in my car. So for that transition, almost 5 years, I was rudderless. And, I was really just getting sick and tired of being sick and tired of not being where I thought I was supposed to be. And that was because I was living the life of blame. Not until a friend of mine, your friends are the ones who will really tell you that, you know what, you need to go brush your teeth because your breath stinks. The person who's saying, and I'm just being honest, right? The person, you have to respect them for telling you the things that are making you ineffective and give you a way of becoming effective. So a friend of mine says, listen, you need to read this book because you've just been constantly negative. And this book he gave me was a book called The Slight Edge, written by, Jeff Olson, talking about doing little things daily that seems like it makes no difference in the act of doing them, the little insignificant things. And I said, okay, whatever. But I took the book, I started reading it, and I was reading the Bible. I also started looking at the movie The Secret when it came out, right? And that was my daily thing. And that same friend introduced me to network marketing. So it was a transitory time, Ryan, that I started learning to take responsibility. That was the greatest part of the transition, when I was able to be responsible for my actions and not blame anyone or anything else. So what you'll find, I see in every very successful person, is they're very responsible. They'll take, the bitter with the sweet, take responsibility for their actions. When you make a mistake, you correct for the mistake and you move on. You correct for the mistake and you move on. So I think, instead of just answering the question, you have to kind of get the history and etymology of everything that happened for me at that time to transition to become. When whatever we are, if I wanted to drink this bottle of water, first I had to, know that I need water to go and get it. This bottle was becoming something, a thought from someone's head to eventually come up with the plastic and the design to make it. So this bottle became what it was supposed to be. A container for water. The person I am today is the person I've been becoming, but the person I'm still becoming is the person I will be 10 years from now. So that's the person I'm chasing, and that's the person I'm being responsible to on a daily basis. That's why I created the quadrants and everything that I have here to become that person.
Wow. Very, very powerful word. I want everyone to go and give your comments, please. Come on, give your comments, please. One word. And one of the powerful words that you used this time was responsible. Responsible. Very, very powerful. He didn't use the word react. He didn't use the word react, but he said you have to respond, because this is something, I don't know why this book is always there on my table, and I just want to go show this again. The principles, the success principle by Jack and Field, in which he uses an equation that is your E plus R is equal to O. E is exactly what happened in your life while you were there in the war field, and when you came back. That's an event. Always event happens to us in our life, whether it is good or whether it's bad. Events happen. You can't change the events, but there is one thing that you can change. After the event comes the letter R, E plus R. It's either you react or you respond. You take responsibility so that you understand what is the event, and you have to respond based on the event. You should not be reacting. Now, what Obom did here, he didn't react to the situation. He understood that situation and he took the responsibility. Once you take the responsibility, you can change the outcome. So it is E plus R is equal to O. He created the outcome. Now here is a straightforward question to Obom. Who is sitting in the cockpit of your life? Give me one answer. Who is sitting right now in the cockpit of your life?
Wow. It's tempted to say me, but it's really driven by my faith, and that would be God. It's because I always want to be more Christ-like in everything that I do.
Wow. Until otherwise, you don't know who is sitting in the cockpit, you will not be able to take your life where you want to take it. It would be somebody else who will be driving you. Thank you very much. So powerful. Next question, please.
You guys have great questions, by the way.
Yes, please.
I would like to talk, sir.
Yeah, please. Go ahead. Introduce yourself. Where are you from?
I'm Vikas from Mumbai. I just want to, doctor, after listening to you, we all feel inspired. Everybody wants to be successful. But, what is the parameter? There's an age parameter for to be successful.
Wow. That is a great question too. So, okay. So that is such a beautiful question. You have my brain going all over the place with the answer for that. But so there is no age limit, no age parity. So here's the deal. When we were all born, first of all, every one of us here won the first race we were ever entered into. Mm-hmm. So if we can take it back and go back to, the moment of conception, every male at the moment of conception, when that happens, you started a race with 50 billion sperm cells and you won. You got to the finish line. You were successful the day of conception. You found the egg and you were in there. Every moment for all of us who actually walk and speak, and I know several of you here speak several languages, wherever you get success in one area, you can receive success in another area. So I do an advanced course and I teach people also that the most successful people in the world are unsuccessful people. And they look at me as if I'm crazy. Here's why. I said earlier that, we perform to the level of our belief. So those who are not as successful, whatever they deem success is they just don't believe truly in their heart that they can be. So they will always create obstacles that will stop them. Maybe they may blame, I didn't get the right education. I wasn't around the right people. And they start these different belief patterns. And you're so intelligent. We are all so intelligent that whatever we believe. So in sense, if you think of your brain as a computer, when you put whatever is in the computer can only do what's on the hard drive. Yeah. So whatever you put on the hard drive, whatever you believe, your brain will then act to justify what you believe. So if you believe incorrectly, you will continue to compute incorrectly. If you believe some way because maybe mom or dad told you that you will never be successful, you can't do this, you believe that in your core. And by the way, all of us, when we're younger, even when we're older, we respond to authority in our life. So when we're born, first and foremost, it's mom and dad. That's where we learn to trust. Then it becomes maybe the school teacher, a big brother, a cousin. We learn to trust those people, authority figures. Then it may be the law. So whatever we've learned from others, if we're not then able to take responsibility, which is what responsibility really means, it's a reverse word. If you're not able to respond, you cannot be responsible. So it's our responsibility then to learn what's necessary to be successful. And now here's the other part, because the word success has two parts, the suck and the cess. Most people don't want to go through the suck. It's part of it. So basically, the eagle of success is flown on the wings of failure. Failure is a part of success. And most people don't want to go through the failure season to be successful. And the thing is, it's failure, success, failure, success, failure, success. You cannot just have one without the other. You can't have yin without yang. You can't have good without bad. You can't have evil and not have good. We have to then, and it's not avoiding the bad, it's embracing the bad to realize the good. Mm-hmm. It's embracing the suck to realize the cess. And cess is a Hindu word really for more, for, like the taxes paid upon something more than given. So in other words, you have to be able to then serve more to receive. It's giver's gain. The more you give, the more you receive. The world is reciprocity. So understanding there is no age limit to it. When you look at success in a financial term, today we're finding more youngsters, 18, 19, 20, 21 years old, that are becoming multimillionaires because they understand tech. They understand technology. And those of us who are, in a sense, were locked in because we were born like maybe in the 70s, refusing to learn more about technology, these kids that are coming today, they're whizzing by us like this because they grew up on a phone. The truth is, this is my phone, but my 2-year-old daughter, the technology is intuitive, knows how to operate it better than I do, right? And for me, that's how I learn. Very intuitive. I pay attention to what my kids do so that I can, okay, this is where the world is going. This is where technology is going. Last piece is this. We all here, I think everyone here is probably over the age of 40. We all learned on a blackboard. And that world prepared us for this world. Today's kids are learning on this. And those who are we are still trying to teach them on a blackboard when that has nothing to do with coding, when that has nothing to do with software and development. The younger version of us, Bill Gates and the rest of them, they developed in coding. So that's the new demographic for why kids are being more successful now than the older ones. And here's why, because the older version of us, those of us who were born in the 70s, most of us have what's called a fixed mindset. So as Farookh, he said he was in, avionics in a sense. There's two types of aircraft. There's fixed wing and then there's not fixed wing. So the fixed wing aircraft can only fly like this. And the ones that's not fixed wing, well, they can do other things. So if our minds is not fixed and it's open and we're willing to learn whatever we need to become successful in whatever area, be it faith, family, finance, fitness, or fun, once we're open-minded, then we can be open to then putting in the 10,000 hours, sucking for a while, and have the success later on. So I hope, Vikas, that was a great answer for the question, because it's what I've learned to be true for myself, for my life.
Very powerful. I want everyone to go and comment. Come on.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Vikas Shetty, and to all others here. What I learned right now, success by itself does not have any meaning other than the meaning you give it to it. For you, success, Vikas, could be something, and for me, it could be completely different. For me, it could be to have a bed in my house. For you, it could be to have a hut. For somebody, it would be to have a house. For somebody else, it would be to have a bungalow, and so forth. So success depends upon each and every individual. Now, how many of you have heard the word coaching? I want you to go and type yes. How many of you have heard the word coaching? Just go and type yes. Okay. Now, coaching is something that we learn from somebody else. Am I right? Now, for the last, I think, 2 months, I've been learning from people. Now, we need to understand the teachers, from most of the teachers that I'm learning are younger to me. And this is called, I want you to take it down. This is called reverse coaching. Reverse coaching is to learn from people who do not have experience like you. And you should have, just like what Doc said right now, you've got to remove your bottleneck. You have to remove the ego, keep it away, and learn from people. It's called reverse coaching. Learn from people, the youngsters, from your kids. Learn from them, because they are much more technologically very well than you. As Doc said right now, you take it, 2-year-old child can operate the mobile device. So you as a leader, you have to remove those things. You have to remove those bottlenecks, and you have to remove those lids, and you have to remove this fixed mindset and be ready to learn. How many of you agree to that? Say, I agree. IG, just type IG if you agree to that. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Back to Doc, yourself. Next question.
You said IG, and I'm thinking Instagram right away.
You will learn a lot of things here.
Right? I'm learning, right? I'm learning, and I'm saying it so that I can register what I've learned.
Okay. The next word that we use is BIO. How many of you know what is BIO?
Bring it on.
Exactly correct. Bring it on. Come on, Shiny, bring it on. Shiny from
Yes.
Qatar. From Qatar.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Hi, Dr. Bowen. I'm Shiny from Doha, Qatar. Thank you very much for spending your time with us and adding value to our life. We have learned a lot from this session. Even though it was short, it was very valuable. And thank you, Sensei, for bringing such a wonderful personality in front of us. So thank you very much for that. Now, my question is, Dr. Bowen, you mentioned about your 4 quadrants, right? 4 quadrants of life. So I love to know how do you spend your morning routine? Like you are focusing on your fitness and learning. Are you focusing on your fitness and learning? And also your this 12 to 7. The second question, 12 to 7, you mentioned that you focus on the work. Now, how to be such laser focused? If at all you get distracted, how do you manage it? These are my questions.
Such
Thank
great
you.
questions. That's why she's, shiny. If you looked at the movie Moana and you saw the, what's his name? The crab down in the dungeon and song, she's so shiny. Anyway, so the first part, when it has to order the morning routine, everyone's morning routine will be different. But what I noticed with putting the routine together, a lot of the first part came from my time in the military. As we started the days at 4 in the morning. Obviously I am not getting up at 4 anymore. That is not going to happen unless I'm going on a flight or I have to do something. But it's not going to be a daily thing. But the days in the military always started with exercise, working out. As a psychologist, later on, I realized, that is releasing the right amount of endorphins, your body's hyper functioning, but then sometimes you get the hardest thing in the day done. When you get the exercise out, so you move your body, you woke your body up, and every cell is now hyper to continue performing throughout the day. And it also, like maintaining weight and things like that, it maintains and sustains a metabolism that's active, right? So an active body burns food actively. So that's one of the first pieces and the purpose for putting that in the beginning of the day. But when you're done and you're hyper and you're extended, then you keep that level of energy because your body maintains whatever level you started with. So if you started in the day and someone's like, I like working out at night, that's great. You're going to have a really good sleep and you wake up in the morning and you're going to be on whatever mood you woke up in. So exercising gives me the ability to change that mood or change that state. So Tony Robbins talks a lot about state changes. So I change the state I'm in through exercise. Then most of it in the morning, I function on learning something. So my brain is aware, it's ready to learn, but I'll spend 30 minutes to where it used to be 15 to 20, 25, but now it's a solid 30 minutes to where I actually sit down, I meditate, I read scripture, I'll post a few things maybe on social media. That's all I did. I don't scroll through it. I'll just go post it. What I read or feel inspired about, I'll post it. I do some research, but I get my spiritual self ready. Now my physical body's good. My spiritual body's good. I'll eat something and then I'll have a conversation with my wife. And we'll talk and we'll study or we'll do something together. Most of the times together, we'll work out together. And so once the workout is finished, it's easier to get something else to eat. Sometimes my wife will either grab a shake or a smoothie, or she'll ask me to make her a cup of coffee. I don't drink coffee, but she loves the way I make coffee. I don't know, one of those things. So, we'll do that in the morning routine. And then when I go to work, see, the last part of the morning routine is double checking exactly what the rest of the day will look like. For example, when I got up this morning, asked Farookh probably an hour before, I messaged him to make sure we're still good. So I'm checking good. What's on my schedule today? Because right now, even though right now what we have planned, I'm laser focused in this time. Nothing is going to distract me from what I'm doing here. And if we let the little distractions get us, which is the other reason why my phone is never on, because if the volume is there, then I'm responding to a message that comes in, a phone call that goes off. And here's what happens. The moment you're focused, let's say you're writing a message, an email or something, the moment something distracts you, it takes you 30 minutes to refocus. So if you're trying to get something done and you get distracted twice within an hour, you had an hour to do something, you're done. It's not gonna happen. You've lost your train of thought. You're trying to come back. If you've ever tried to write an email, someone calls you, you get back and you're like, what was I saying again? Oh my gosh. You've lost, it takes you 30 minutes scientifically to get back focused. So when I learned these things, it's like, listen, if I want to become financially successful in the times that I set to work, I can't afford to have someone then distract me, even my wife. So my wife, and that was the hardest part, setting my work hours, and my wife would interrupt me for something. Like, honey, you can't, I have to work. What are you doing? Right? So it took a while. So then when I built my first business and I built it from home, the great thing about working from home is that you're working from home. The bad thing about working from home is you're working from home because you get all the distractions, right? So my wife would come down and she would come and say, like, honey, would you like something to eat? And it's like, you fed me 2 hours ago. I'm good. Or just bring me something to eat. Or my wife would come and, just being honest, we were a young married couple. And in the beginning, she would come down and give me the eye and I would be distracted. So once I learned to mitigate the distractions, first starting with my wife, no one else could distract me because I realized every distraction takes 30 minutes to get back on track. And then even when you get back on track, you're of a different mindset. So you might have been focusing on one thing, you got distracted, you come back and it changed the emphasis of that whole email, that whole conversation or whatever it was you were doing. So being able to say, listen, if this is the time you set to work or to do a thing, that is the thing you have to do. You do the thing to get the power, not get the power to do the thing, right? So you have to, staying focused is a must. Well, you don't necessarily have to, but if you want to be successful in any discipline, you must stay in that discipline and discipline yourself to only do what it is you set yourself to do.
Wow, powerful. Shiny, how was it?
It was shiny.
Hi. Wow, that was great. Thank you very much for that.
You're so welcome. My pleasure.
This is a new information for me that when we get distracted, it gets 30 seconds. What you said? 30 seconds, right?
30 minutes.
30 minutes.
30 minutes.
Half an hour.
Yeah. Oh, that is really new info. So thank you very much. And now onwards, I will focus on the things what I'm doing because I am a person who easily get distracted. So thank you for that information.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, to add to that too, Shiny, is this. In my 7 hours of work, there are planned breaks in between. After every major thing I do, and I pretty much set an hour to do those, I'll stop and take a break so I can come back with a refreshed, renewed mind for the next thing. Because if you're just planning, you run over, you'll become mentally exhausted, right? We can really only go about 2 hours focused on tunnel vision on something before you start to get a little mental exhaustion. And the thing is, you don't know it's coming. But if you do know that happens, you plan for it so it doesn't reoccur for you.
Thank you very much. That's so
thank you very much.
We'll take 2 more questions. And the length of the answer depends upon doctor, okay? It depends on Dr. Obom. Okay, now here's something which I would just like to add upon is, this is what doctor said right now was so powerful, and this is something which I've been following for ages now. Where I'm sitting right now is my home office. Nobody comes and knocks my door, not even my wife. Not even my wife is permitted to come here once I'm in this room. Why? Because you have to focus on what you want to achieve. Nobody's going to disturb me, no phone calls, nothing. If you have a clear vision about or a clear diary about what you're going to do today, just focus on that. And just like what Doc said, after a while, you have to take a bit of rest. I know that he takes a rest, and if he wants to look at his mobile and so forth, he looks at that particular time. And nobody calls him. If you want to send him a text, he will just look at the text. That's what I know about him. And that if you take that into a practical sense, if you have ever been to the airport, if you look at the security personnel who look at the baggage on the screen, they look at the screen only for 20 minutes, because after 20 minutes, you won't be able to focus on whatever you're doing. So you need to get a break. And that's exactly what, as a civilian, what Doc said right now. Once you focus on that, then take a break, short break, get up from where you are, then come back again. Because once you come back, you will know that sometimes you might have distracted from the whole purpose, what you were doing. So it will let you know to go and get back to what you were doing. So always take a short break, come back so that you can get 100% focus. Thank you very much, Doctor. That was absolutely powerful. So two more questions, okay?
Two more questions and that's a wrap.
Yeah, that's a wrap.
Hello,
okay.
sir.
Yes,
I have a question.
Yes, please, Justin. Go ahead.
Hello, sir. My name is Justin.
Yes,
and I'm from Kerala.
Okay.
Yes, thank you so much, Farookh sir and Dr. Obom, for the wonderful session. And it's really igniting. So, Dr. Obom, I have two questions for you.
Keep it
Number one.
Keep it one, simple.
Okay, okay. So, one simple question.
Yeah.
Simple question for you. What is the biggest challenge that you face in your public speaking career and how you overcome it?
Wow. So the greatest challenge I faced personally was first believing that I could actually be who I am. And how I overcame that, I've always had, high self-esteem and estimation of myself. But the other thing I learned for just even with someone with high self-esteem is, as human beings, we are the only individuals who know everything about ourselves. Mm-hmm. And 80% of the time we choose to see or highlight the bad in ourselves. So whenever I would, put a talk together, I was the one that knew, literally when you think about it, it was only like maybe 3 or 5% of that talk wasn't good. So then most of my thoughts were on all the parts that wasn't good. And it was just having that belief that I can, and then a mentor of mine says, listen, you need to stop all the clutter in your mind and realize that if you're going to speak to the audience, they don't know what you're going to talk about. So whatever you deliver to them, even if you deliver 50%, that's the 100%. It took me a while to understand what he was saying until one day I actually had a talk to do, unprepared, unrehearsed, and my mentor actually called me up and threw me on the stage, and it was supposed to be for 30 minutes. Well, I trained for 45 minutes, and it felt like it was only 15 minutes. And when I got down, because he was like, I have to pull you off because you weren't going to stop. I was like, yeah, I had 2 more points I was going to make. He says, yeah, that was going to take up the rest of the day. And then I realized what he said before. What I delivered that day, it was powerful. The audience loved it. Stand ovation. Everybody was, they wanted to meet afterwards. But for me, I only felt that I gave like 30%. I still had 70% to go. But for the audience, it was 100%. And that was the day I realized it was my belief in myself. That was my greatest challenge. So when I learned to believe myself, like coming on, I don't need to rehearse for anything because now I live my message. I know my message inside out. So now I have that belief. And so belief is the first stage. Knowing is the last stage. Mm-hmm. See, when you get to the point of knowing, nothing changes your belief. For example, I was born a man. You cannot change my belief that I'm a woman. It's not going to happen. See, I know that I'm a man. In my younger years, my belief was formed by, looking at all the other folks who looked like me, masculine, had all the body parts and things that I did to make me a man. So now I know I'm a man. So when you move from belief to knowing, that is very, very powerful. And for me, it was my belief. And now that I know I can go on any stage, or any size of any audience, and I'm not going to speak to that stage, I'm going to rock that stage because that's my belief. That's my knowing.
Wow. Powerful. Thank you very much. That's absolutely just like Muhammad Ali always says, that I am the champ, I am the winner, I am the champ.
Right. He would say, I am the greatest.
Exactly correct. Exactly correct. One last question. One last question.
If you allow, sir, I wish to ask a question.
Yes, please. One last question.
Yeah, this is Mansoor from Mumbai.
Okay, Mansoor. Hi, Mansoor. Yes, please.
Yeah, it's a pleasure being here tonight. Really, it's an eye-opener. So I would consider myself as a rookie in this coaching business. So just coming back to the question of 10,000 hours of practice, I would say it's not practice, it's perfection. So do I need to set a time frame that within this time frame, I should get this 10,000 hours of practice or perfection, or it could be over a period of time? Just a simple question I have. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so that's a great question too, Mansoor. Here's the portion of it, that the first step you've already taken. So just to know that we're all rookies, and you just become a better rookie, right? The greatest leader is the greatest follower. So eventually you're following someone and you're becoming the best version of you. And one day you look back and realize you've been leading others, right? So, I started as a rookie, but really understand when you decide, that's the most important part. When you decide, the word decide comes from one of the Greek word, like iside. Anything that ends in iside, it means to claim a distinctive line. Or so the word decide, like suicide, homicide, fratricide, it all means to cease and desist from all other things doing. So you decide and you know how to move forward. The day of decision, it's drawing your line in the sand. So you basically just decided, okay, great, I'm going to put in my 10,000 hours. That's when your craft or discipline of mastery begins. A master sits down when he or she says, this is what I'm going to do. Now, here's the cool thing about that. Sometimes to get to where you want to be, there'll be different levels of mastery. Until you get the 10,000 hours in, the 10,000 hours is what's called fluidity, or where we say, you know, I can do it in my sleep. It's the level of unconscious competence. But when you decide now you'll be a student of the 10,000 hours, you've now let go of everything else, which is the frustration, because more people don't want to go through the 10,000 hours. But when you decide and you then commit to those 10,000 hours, that's the difference. In that moment, you become a master, because now you're willing to do what it takes, what is necessary. See, we never get what we desire. We never get what we want. We never get the goals we set. We only get what we are committed to. So when you decide and you then commit to the process, when you get those 10,000 hours, that's called the unconscious competent phase, right? Because in the 10,000 hours, basically around 2,500, you go through what's called the first phase, the unconscious incompetence. You don't know what you don't know. Then you decide what it is you wanted. Now you move to the conscious incompetent phase. And that's where, for most people, I call that human agony. Because now you got to, oh my gosh, I got to get up. I have to go work out again, over and over. I have to keep eating hell. Oh my goodness. Whew. That's the human agony phase. You're consciously doing it. And then you get into the conscious competent phase. Now it's not so much of a problem eating healthy and getting up and working out, right? But you do it religiously inside out. When you get to the unconscious competent phases, where everyone else is like, oh, Mansoor, it's so easy for you. No, it's not. Because you've put in the time, you've put in the hours, you've mastered the pain. In other words, you've then disciplined your disappointments. The disappointment of, you know what? Do you really want to get out of your bed at whatever time in the morning you set to go work out? If you're married, do I really want to get out of this comfortable cuddle with my wife right now to go work out or to go do X? No, I don't. But if you do it long enough, heck, you might even inspire your wife to get up and go work out with you like I do with mine. You might even inspire her or someone else. And here's the last piece. A lot of us, we love celebrities. We love, folks who had success, whether it's financial, emotional, you name it. The thing is, we don't love them. What we love is the discipline.
Yeah.
It took them.
I want everyone to type discipline. Please go and type discipline, all of you. Yes, go ahead, Doc.
Yeah, absolutely. So what like Nike paid Michael Jordan for his discipline. So we admire the discipline. And here's why we love the discipline. Because discipline is the bridge between success and failure. You need to cross that bridge every day, and it takes discipline to do it. So we admire the discipline in Michael Jordan. He puts on Nikes. Nike brands Michael Jordan. If I can be like Mike. So what they do when we talked about it earlier is they use the word in Nike to sell a picture of Michael Jordan's discipline to create an emotion in us to go buy a pair of sneakers that says, I could be like Mike. That's what we admire. So with you making the distinction and now having the discipline to commit to do the 10,000 hours, immediately you become a master. Immediately, because you're already there. As you continue it, it's now the different phases of you going through mastering this process to where, you know what, 3 to 4 or 5 years from now, you'll be doing one of these. And you won't have to think about where the answers are coming from, because like in Lion King, it lives in you, right? So hopefully that was helpful for you, my friend.
Absolutely, absolutely. Here is something which I would like to add upon, and this would be continued with Doc. He spoke about the 4 quadrants, and the 4th quadrant is with your mastery, with your practice, and with your discipline. unconsciously you start doing everything. But always understand, just like you're driving, you need to have a side mirror and a rear mirror. In other words, you must have a coach even at that time. What is your thoughts about that, Doc?
You know,
while you're the master, still.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
You always have to have a coach. Coaching, first of all, when you have a coach, as a person, you need to be coachable. You break the word down, you're coach-able. You're able to receive coaching. So if you're not coachable, meaning you're not able to receive coaching, you won't grow. We had coaches when we were born. Mom and dad coached us on how to speak. Mom and dad coached us on how to get dressed, coached us on how to tie our shoes. Teachers coached us on how to learn. And the crazy part is, most of us decide to become successful in something we are not good at without a coach. And it doesn't work that way. We talked about Michael Jordan, and Michael was extremely intentional. This is that he will never play without a specific coach.
Yep.
Because he believed that coach was the best in the world. And his goal was to be the best in the world. So he was willing to invest. At times, you'll either invest time or money or both to find a great coach. And I read a book called, Never Take Advice from That Idiot. Why would you take advice? Why would you take advice from someone else who doesn't have the life you want and desire? So the coaches that I use now and have used in the past when I learned this philosophy are those who've had the lifestyle, or when I was taking an income coach, the coach who had the income that I wanted. The things I do now as an 8-9 figure earner, I would never do again that I used to do as someone who didn't even earn a 6-figure then yet. Like, I'm completely irate if 7 figures doesn't show up within a week in one of my businesses. Now, decades ago, I would be completely satisfied if 100,000 just showed up within a year. How did I become the person who literally within days or hours can make 6 figures show up? It was the time. It was the process. It was the discipline. It was finding the right coaches, right? So when I wanted to learn wealth, I studied wealth. I hired a wealth coach, someone who was wealthier than I was.
Yep.
And all of it comes down to how you think, because the wealthy simply thinks differently than the impoverished. And I share this with people all the time that, poor people think for Saturday night. Mm-hmm. Wealthy people think for 3 generations.
Yep.
It's a complete different mindset.
Wow, that was absolutely great. We had to take additional time from you. Thank you very much, because this is exactly what happens. Many of you have already attended sessions with great leaders, and it always happens that they get connected so much that they don't leave us. And so thank you very much. I want everyone to go and type thank you. It was a great session. It was a great learning. Let me tell you this, my dear friends, we are not here to sell anything. Did we sell anything? Don't think that we are here to sell anything. We don't do that. That's not the purpose. It's the whole 100% is to give. And that's exactly why we bought Doctor here online. So the whole purpose is to give and give. Thank you very much from all of you. I want a good thank you from all of you to Dr. Obom. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much. Please go and you can follow him on Facebook, Twitter, and so forth. He is very much active over there. Let me tell you one thing, my dear friends. If he had to actually come on stage for 1.5 hours, we had to use our credit cards. Yeah. Thank you very much, Doc, for taking your time, for the love and the affection that you have with me. And thank you very much for that. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All of you, just go and say thank you. Thank you very much.